Welcome back to the Sage Skills Lab, where we exist for one reason, and that's to help turn insight into action that you can use today, where every video gives you one science-based skill, one practice you can start today, and one key takeaway that will make you a sharper, stronger leader. And today we're going to completely change how you think about AI from a tool that you type questions into a teammate you can hire with a specific job to do. Right now, leaders are being flooded with advice on how to write the perfect prompt, which new AI tool to buy, or how to automate their inbox. And yes, those things matter. But if your AI strategy relies on your team simply typing questions into a chatbot like a fancy Google search, you're really missing the real shift because the world has moved on. We're rapidly entering the era of autonomous AI agents, and the leaders who understand what that actually means are about to pull so far ahead that the gap will be very hard to close. So today I'm going to share with you what an AI agent is, why it changes how you build a team, and how you can use your team's personality data to deploy one this week. So what's an AI agent? Well, let's start with the basics because this term often gets thrown around a lot and most people don't really know what it means. A regular AI tool, like the chatbot you might already be using, hope you are, responds to you. You type something in, it gives you something back. In other words, you're the one driving the actual interaction. An AI agent is different. An AI agent can be given a goal and then go execute it independently. It can research, analyze, process, review, check for errors, and deliver finished output without you managing every step. And that's powerful. Think of it less like a search engine or a calculator and more like a junior analyst who can handle a full workflow on their own. It really matters because when you have something that can actually act, not just respond, the question moves from what should I ask it to do to what role could it actually play. And just like a person, we can't just drop an AI agent into a team and hope it works. If our human team has a psychological blind spot, a generic AI will only amplify it. So we've got to see how it can add to our team's ways of working, actually improve on our collective personality map. And the best way to get ahead with these new uses is to start treating AI like a new hire. Today I'm going to show you how the world's most elite organizations use a concept called Cognitive Gap Enhancement to build the ultimate digital teammate, and how you can use your team's personality data to do the exact same thing this week. Now, when organizations look at integrating AI, they usually ask about the tech. Instead, as organizational experts, the first thing we look at is human team dynamics. To understand why, we can look at elite institutions and how they've made critical decisions for decades. Global consulting firms, financial institutions, and even defense agencies have used a concept called red teaming forever. Researchers found that when a human team is highly collaborative, creative, and agreeable, they can also suffer from a psychological blind spot called groupthink. And groupthink is where people value harmony so much, they accidentally overlook critical flaws, creating data compliance issues and structural risks. They don't intend to, but they just forget that they need to actually challenge each other. To compensate, these institutions would hire an independent team, a red team, a group of outside skeptics whose entire job it was to be disagreeable, to shoot down the ideas, and to find hidden traps. Historically, only large enterprises could afford a dedicated human red team. But today, you've got autonomous AI agents, and that completely changes the math. You don't need to hire an outside consulting firm to stress test your strategy or identify sources of conflict in your team. You can intentionally onboard an AI agent to play the specific psychological role your team is missing. But you've got to know your own team baseline first. In other words, it's impossible to hire an effective digital agent and digital teammate based on guesswork. You have to know which agent to hire. And this is exactly how we help leaders at TalentSage. Before you deploy a single digital agent, leaders use our 5-step personality profile built on the scientifically validated Big 5 framework to inventory their human team's baseline traits. They use this to identify collective strengths and collective blind spots. And with that in hand, then they layer on our tipping point profile to translate personality dimensions into team roles. For example, if your TalentSage profile shows your team is highly analytical but struggles with empathy or communication, you can assign the agent as your culture coach, tasking it with refining the tone of your messaging or conversations so it helps your team connect emotionally with your market or even in between the team members. So in other words, your team's personality data is actually the missing user manual for your AI infrastructure. And when you map human gaps first, you can pinpoint the role to assign your AI agent to stretch your team's output in a way that you simply couldn't have done before. So how can you practice from being a prompt user to being a hybrid human AI agent orchestrator this week, even if you're early on the AI maturity curve? Just try this one micro skill called trait injection. The next time you open an AI tool to help with a team project, don't type a generic question in. Before asking it to anything, spend 60 seconds identifying the psychological role you need it to play. Use this 3-step framing method to inject a missing team trait. First, name the trait and be specific. For example, tell it our human team is highly creative, but we lack the skepticism and critical detail orientation we need for a great output. Second, assign it a persona. And what do I mean by that? Well, tell it to act as your adversarial challenger. Tell it your job is to try and find 3 critical flaws in this proposal, or whatever it is that you've got it doing. And then third, set the guardrails. Ask it, or even instruct it, not to praise your ideas, but tell it to only highlight the execution risks and hidden costs. Give it a critical role to play. That's it. 3 steps, 60 seconds, and you've deployed a psychological role that your team was missing without hiring anyone, without a budget meeting, without asking permission, and without waiting for your company's AI strategy to catch up. And in doing so, you instantly elevate your team's total effectiveness. And try to keep this in mind. Just try to think about it this way. Leaders who will win in the age of AI aren't those who are going to find the best chatbot. They're the ones who understand their team well enough to know what roles and personalities they have and which ones they need, which ones they can get from AI agents. So stop guessing what your team needs and head over to TalentSage.com today to find out more about our 5-step and our tipping point profile to get the data you need to safely design your digital teammates. But keep in mind, onboarding AI agents is only the first step. Once you have AI agents on your team, the challenge shifts again. In other words, how do you actually manage a day-to-day team where humans and autonomous agents are working side by side? And if you think managing a team of humans is tough, wait until you have to lead a human employee whose productivity is suffering because they quietly are competing with or even being ignored by the AI agent. We're breaking down the operational playbook for leading those hybrid teams in our next video. So hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and I'll see you there. And if this video helped you at all, share it with a leader that you know who needs it. And remember, be human, lead better. And I'll see you next time.